What is up, everybody? This is Devin Roberts back again with Young Controversy, here to do another breakdown for you. I know I'm a little late on this, but I want to see how everything kind of unfolded and what the Nevada Athletic Commission did and how the fighters responded, what fights they set up next, before I really did a full breakdown of this, so it would be a little longer and y'all would get the full story from the beginning to end. So, without further ado, if you're not already aware, I'm Devin Roberts. I'm a huge mixed martial arts fan, and I'm your host here on Young Controversy, coming to you with the Conor McGregor Khabib Nurmagomedov breakdown. So, we're going to go over the UFC 229 card and explain everything that happened and why it has such a huge impact on martial arts in the future. We're going to start with the fight, the build-up to the fight, and why it was such a big deal to begin with. Khabib Nurmagomedov, or if you want to pronounce it exactly correctly, I believe it's Khabib Nurmagomedov, is a Russian bear, a UFC fighter who is currently going into this fight that we're discussing 26-0, now 27-0, having defeated Conor McGregor. Hi. Hi. I'm talking about the Conor McGregor Khabib fight.
That's interesting.
Hi, this is Colin, my little brother. Say hi, Colin.
Hello.
But going into this fight, he was a huge draw for. He's one of the best up-and-coming UFC fighters, guys. 26-0 is almost unheard of. People don't go that long in UFC careers and MMA careers without losing to anyone. Now, going into this fight, the other piece is, if you're not aware, Conor McGregor, I thought was going to win by a country mile. Conor McGregor's an incredible striker, one of the greatest to ever do it in the game. His striking is really unconventional, really versatile, and he just came from boxing, which... And one of the biggest things people have been saying about Conor was that he was going to have low stamina during this fight. He came from a boxing match with Floyd Mayweather as the last thing he did in combat sports, which are 12 rounds instead of 5, like a mixed martial arts fight is, so I expected him to have more stamina. Khabib is known for his wrestling. He is an incredible wrestler. He's great at making his opponent submit to him on the ground. He showed unbelievable use of his legs and tying up his opponent, and his striking isn't bad either. He's very pressure-oriented fighter with a really good chin on him, and he's the bigger man than Conor, just build-wise. He definitely cuts from a higher weight. So those were kind of their advantages going into this fight. The first big thing that happened in the drama side of everything, or I guess kind of the leading up to the fight, is Khabib Nurmagomedov took him and a group of his Russian fighters, wound up approaching Artem Lobov, who is a teammate of Conor McGregor and one of his close friends. Artem had been talking smack online about Khabib, and he was upset enough about to approach Artem and get in his face with about 5 of his other friends. He grabbed him behind the head with his arm and started talking to him directly and looking at him just very intimidatingly. Artem chicken shit Lobov just kind of backed down and took it like a bitch. He's the worst UFC fighter that's ever been in the UFC or anywhere similar. He's the meme of the UFC. I'm so sorry, Artem. Conor, being the great guy that he is, wound up deciding he was going to get revenge for his friend. Oh yes, but not in maybe the way that he should have. He wound up going to a UFC event that Khabib had been on a bus leaving the event, and the guys that were running security were members of MacLife, which is basically Conor McGregor's fan group. He brought his gym from Ireland, basically all of his boys, and got the MacLife guys to let him in to the event and down toward the bus, to which they started banging and attacking the bus, telling Khabib to come out and fight, and freaking out, making a giant, unbelievable scene. It escalated and emotions got flared, Khabib and everyone else, including a huge another 10, 12, maybe a couple more UFC fighters and their teams were all on the bus. So at this point, as tempers are getting flared, security's trying to stop them, Conor McGregor picks up a rolling dolly and throws it in the bus's window. Or not in the window, but it hit the window and shattered the glass inside the bus. Wow. And this was a huge deal, guys. Rose Namajunas, who is this? The strawweight champion, Rose Namajunas, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce her name, wound up discussing mental scars that this left on her afterwards. She's claiming that it has affected her heavily to have 20 guys outside of a bus attacking you. She is a 115-pound fighter, although she is a fighter that's terrifying, obviously. Michael Chiesa, which is another fighter, wound up having his face cut open and his fight canceled by a piece of stray glass. And Conor wound up just basically throwing all this stuff, making a scene, getting it on video, and then running out. There's a video of Khabib that came out right afterward where Michael Chiesa told him to kill Conor, and Khabib said, "Send me your location and we will fight. Don't show up here with 20 guys and other people at a UFC event that's my work and think we're going to fight. Send me your location, UFC or not, I'll fight you." At this point, the police put out a warrant for Conor McGregor's arrest, and his plane got docked here in the United States, so he could not leave. Of course, Conor McGregor got caught by the police for this. He's insane for even considering doing it. I partially think it was the UFC trying to promote the fight. They were fine to use it on UFC 299's cards coming up, but some people claim that Conor did it because he didn't want to do promotion for the 229 fight that was obviously coming up against Khabib. People are saying that he wanted to focus on training. He had this issue earlier with fights with Nate Diaz where he wanted to spend more training and less time promoting, and he's basically like, hey, you can run the bus clip as many times as you want. I'm training. I'm not doing 1,000 press conferences for this fight. And he didn't. There was only one, and I don't believe any fans were even allowed in that press conference. So that was a pretty big deal. But outside of that, Conor got arrested for this, of course. He got tried. There was a giant fine. He got let off, allowed to fly, allowed to fight. Pretty much a slap on the wrist and a lot of money. Michael Chiesa since come out and said that he might sue Conor McGregor for the damages that he caused him on the bus. So we'll see if he has to pay more money later. But as we continue, that's kind of the drama that led into this fight. At that point, both men kind of went to their own camps. There were press conferences where they wound up talking smack on each other. Conor said a lot of bad things about Khabib's religion. He's Muslim. Tried to make him drink, which is against his religion, on stage. Talked bad against his father, and talked bad against the person who funds his gym, which we're pretty sure is in Russian jail right now. So I don't know if anything Conor said was true. I'm not really going to look into it that much. I just care how hard they can punch. But he was spewing all this at Khabib, trying to get in his head, trying to get him rattled. There wasn't much Khabib really spewed at Conor, except if you were really Irish, you wouldn't be speaking English. Your whole country speaks English, and let's not talk about whose country is weaker while I still speak Russian. Fight day comes around after all this, and it's time to fight. And within the first 6 punches Conor throws, Khabib wounds up wrapping his legs up so tightly in a takedown that Conor could not move. He was anacondaed. It was disgusting, and just started mauling him from the ground. It wasn't even close, guys. At a point, I think pretty much by round 3, when Khabib had kind of tired himself out from beating Conor up, Conor wound up having some standing time with Khabib, and they threw strikes back and forth, but the only one to get knocked down was Conor. Khabib threw a giant overhand right that knocked Conor down, and Conor didn't knock Khabib down once, who also, a fun fact, hasn't been knocked down in any other UFC fight, to my knowledge, by a punch. It's crazy, guys. Khabib started mauling him. By the 4th round, Conor had been beat up on the ground for rounds 1 and 2. Round 3 came around, and he wound up having some standing with Khabib, and it was all right, but I think it was about equal, and Khabib wound up having the bigger strike, no doubt, and still got some groundwork in. And round 4, Conor just there was nothing left, and Khabib wound up taking the round with pretty much ease, and fight ended. He got Conor from the back with a neck crank, wound up cranking his chin to the side, and Conor tapped out to end the fight and give the lightweight strap to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Congratulations, Khabib. And then, if you're not aware, Dylan Dennis, a Bellator fighter and Conor's teammate and cornerman, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wizard. He's truly incredible, guys. Wound up talking smack on the sideline directly after the loss. I've seen comments online say it was about Khabib's religion, but that's utter speculation and just a few things that I've seen online. Khabib then looked at him, said something to him, ripped his mouth guard out, threw it at him, and ran and hopped the fence and ran into the crowd. That is unbelievable. Like, to attack a cornerman directly after a fight, not another fighter really, and maybe another fighter, we'll see, they're not in the same promotion, is not something that would be considered extremely okay, but it happens in UFC fights. It's not something I haven't seen, so it didn't freak me out that much. What freaked me out was the fact that Khabib's teammates jumped in the ring and started attacking the recently knocked out Conor McGregor, recently tapped out Conor McGregor. He got hit a couple times in the back of the head. Security was everywhere, pulling everyone off everyone. And Khabib wound up getting his purse suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, as did Conor McGregor after this whole altercation took place. Dana White refused to put the strap on Khabib in the stadium or in the octagon and wouldn't give it to him. I believe he's definitely the lightweight champion now, but he didn't get to receive his belt for his first title win being undefeated. And you could see the pain on his face. He may have cried. I felt bad for the guy. He released a statement afterwards saying he's tired of people thinking in the UFC that they can just talk smack, say awful things and horrid things about each other and get away with it. He wants to create a culture in the UFC where people are scared to do that and they remember that fighters are fighters and you can't just talk the worst things you can about fighters. He's trying to end the smack talking era that Conor McGregor started. And I think that's really interesting and all, but that was not the way to handle it. And having your weak chicken shit teammates jump into the cage to fight Conor, who had recently been tapped, is pathetic. I don't know if Khabib had anything to do with it. The teammates could have completely done it of their own accord, but it's a huge deal one way or another. Guys, I have a little bit of speculation I want to throw onto the end of this because I saw something on Twitter the other day that really interested me. 50 Cent wound up offering Khabib a chance to fight in Bellator, or at least through Twitter conversation. They were just discussing it, I guess, and shooting the shit about it, I get, in a way. But the concept really struck with me because Khabib's under contract with the UFC, of course, so he has a certain number of fights he has to do there. Maybe not many. I don't know how many's left. But if Khabib leaves to Bellator, I know, I sound crazy after he just won his strap, but hear me out. He may have been trying to set up a fight with Dylan Dennis, who is already a Bellator fighter and one of Conor McGregor's teammates. I would absolutely pay to watch that Bellator fight, and Khabib has become a giant draw across the whole world, specifically outside of the United States, to enough that people would absolutely follow him as fans to Bellator. They're trying to pull UFC fighters. They've been doing it little by little for years. And Khabib hates the way that Dana White runs things and the smack-talking generation that this UFC has become. There are other fighters that I think they could pull from outside from under the UFC's nose pretty easily, and Khabib could absolutely lead that charge, and that scares me because I love the UFC and I love the way they promote things. I love Conor McGregor and I love this generation of UFC fighting. Sorry guys, if you're not about it, I am. But Khabib leaving would make the two promotions near rivals. It would be a giant deal, and they're willing to offer him a lot of money to do it while the Nevada State Athletic Commission is holding $2 million from him for the Conor McGregor fight. So if you were in his situation, you were as spiteful as you know he has to be after all this, after having his religion, family, and country trashed, and then getting in trouble for running into the crowd and not really even hitting anybody. $2 million held from you. I'd be pretty upset if I were him. My prayers go for Conor McGregor and your recovery, dude. That was awful. I love you. You're still my favorite fighter, no question about it. But let's get into the gym, and I expect the rematch to be way better. Khabib, you impressed me. You are now one of my favorite fighters. I loved what you did there. Your number 2 pound for pound right now, I think, is deserved after that performance. It was a spectacle. 27-0, congratulations, but my boy's going to come back and beat you next time. I definitely lost a few bets on this one, guys. But, as always, this is Devin Roberts with Young Controversy, and I just wanted to lay that breakdown out for you so you knew where things were now. We'll see where things go from here. Will Khabib get his purse? When will he be allowed to fight again? And what's next for both of those fighters? Outside of that, the only other good UFC news coming up, if you're not aware yet, is Jones Gustafsson 2 for the light heavyweight strap is coming up, so I'll plug that in for them right there. Guys, if you haven't followed me on Instagram yet, at Young Controversy, please go do it. You'll get all my updates. You'll hear about my YouTube videos, new links, everything that you could possibly need. It's awesome. Please go check out my YouTube. And if you haven't listened to my daily updates on my podcast on anchor.fm/podcasting, go over there, anchor.fm/podcasting. It could not be easier. You'll get updates all weekdays from me on trending news on the internet, guys. This is Devin Roberts. I've had a great time with you. Thank you for talking about my favorite fighter. I'm signing out. Peace.
It's a revolution.